Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I hope everyone is well. So I want to do a quick video discussing or sharing some thoughts in regards to why I believe Iqbal, Muhammad Iqbal, also known as Allama Iqbal, why his thoughts and his philosophy on, in particular, related to identity, the Muslim identity, is relevant today in the 21st century, especially for young Muslims. Now, for us to appreciate this, I need to share a bit of a background with you. Now, you have to remember that Iqbal lived in a world where the Muslims had lost their identity. They didn't really know who they were. The Muslims prior to this time had ruled the world, and now existing in, British occupied India, they had lost or were beginning to lose an understanding of who they were, who the Muslim is, what does Muslim mean. And Iqbal lived in such a time, and he saw these issues and problems, and he was very passionate from a very, very young age to help, inspire these Muslims and inspire change within society and bring people back to Islam, the heritage of Islam, the religion of Islam, the deen, and for people to understand the basics, the fundamentals, so they can grow and they can create a beautiful world, essentially. Now, considering this, one of Iqbal's fundamental philosophies and ideas that he continuously spoke of was the idea of khudi, selfhood, as it's translated sometimes. He wrote about this in his poetry, in his other works. And this khudi, this concept of khudi, which if I was to try to define it for you guys in a nutshell, would be the development of the selfhood, the growth of the self. Some have referred to khudi as the golden thread that ties all aspects of human nature together, everything that makes us human together, the physical and the spiritual. The way I've understood it from the little I've read on this concept is it also, I believe, is to do with the realization of the self in relation to God. So the if you like, the peak of selfhood is one's discovery of one's own self through the understanding of who they are in relation to their creator, in relation to God, in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know Iqbal's entire philosophy was based on one particular ayah of the Quran found in Surah Hashr, chapter 59, I believe, verse 19, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. That do not become like those who forgot God, who deliberately turned away from God, and therefore, as a result, God then made them forget themselves. They lost track of who they were. And then God says that they are the ones that are the true transgressors. Now, what does it mean here to forget oneself? Dr. Isar actually, discusses this and elaborates upon this, forgetting oneself in a very powerful way. He says, the modern atheist or secularist or someone that doesn't believe in God or recognize God, who's turned away from God, they haven't forgotten themselves. They recognize themselves. They know that they have physical needs. They have to take care of their bodies. They have to take care of what they eat, etc. So what does it mean that those who forget Allah, Allah makes them forget themselves? It's essentially what it boils down to is forgetting one's nature, one's essence, what they really are deep down inside, who they are, as far as, the essence of the human being, the soul of the human being, that we are creation of God. We were created by God to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We forget our true purpose. We forget why we exist. So this was the basis of Iqbal's entire philosophy. And this is another reason I believe that the concept of khudi, although to a great extent in some circles it's been secularized and butchered, if you like, I think it really ties in, with the understanding of the spiritual self, that, and some people have even tried to compare it to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that the basic understanding of the self is in relation to its basic, you know, needs, which are of food and so on, and then societal needs of love and acceptance, and then he builds his hierarchy in this way. But I don't think Iqbal's, although it's compared to Maslow's framework, I don't think it works like this. Even in the context, the socio-political context that Iqbal existed in, what he was trying to achieve, I think his fundamental idea of khudi, this development of selfhood, is directly related to God. It's one's development through the recognition of who they are in relation to their creator. And then through drawing closer to God, recognizing God, drawing closer to God, and through recognizing God, recognizing who you are, and then acting upon the teachings of Islam, through action, one grows, and one's selfhood, one's khudi develops, and Iqbal also mentioned, the relation of the development of the khudi and one's role within society. How much, how one must act and live as an active, ethical human being within society for one's khudi to develop. And this again beautifully relates to what we know in Islam, that throughout the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those who believe and do good deeds. Doing good deeds is an integral aspect of the Muslim condition, of the Muslim life, of how we are to live in this world. We have to act and do good deeds, and doing good deeds means doing good for others, being a proactive, citizen within society. So, it ties in, and you can see Iqbal's entire philosophy. It's not an abstract philosophy that he has, taken from, Western philosophers and thinkers. It's something that's grounded in Islam, grounded within the Quran. The development of the self, and also, without going into detail, this concept of what you refer to as marde mu'min, the believing man or the perfect man. Sure, it may have been inspired to some degree by Nietzsche's Übermensch, or the Superman, but the way Iqbal grounded it within the Islamic tradition, Nietzsche could never do, because you can't ground this sort of highly ethical, archetype of the perfect human being on a atheistic worldview, because everything is an accident on an atheistic worldview, and so on, and therefore there is no grounding. Everything, if everything is an accident, then how do you ground, ethical concepts, morals, etc.? But that's another discussion. But anyway, coming back, so to tie all this up, this concept of khudi, of the development of the self, of the true realization of the self and the growth of the self in relation to God, through understanding one's relationship with God. This is extremely significant in our times as well, because today in the 21st century, many Muslims are having trouble with identity, understanding who they are, what their role in this world is, why they exist. Muslims are experiencing a type of nihilism, and therefore Iqbal's philosophy of khudi, if I can call it that, is something that Muslims today should study as well. Because there's a lot of benefit. They'll really benefit from it. If anything, it'll bring them closer to the Quran and allow them to understand certain aspects of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, in ways they probably won't be able to otherwise, or they haven't maybe thought about themselves, or they conceived of themselves. Because whenever you read specific thinkers or intellectuals and their works, they may be speaking about similar concepts to what you may already know, but the perspective or the angle they bring to it is something that you wouldn't have been able to come to yourself. It's something that's novel to them, and you can really benefit from that as well. And this is what we need today in the 21st century. We need to really fundamentally ground ourselves as Muslims. Everything is there in Islam, in the Quran. All of the deep metaphysical questions that we have, all of the answers are there. Islam answers them in a profound and comprehensive way. Who we are, how we are to develop, how do we grow. All of these deep questions that we have, the answers again are found in the Quran and the Sunnah. And Iqbal's work, I think, because we're speaking about Iqbal, what it does is it gathers some of this information and it ties it up in a very beautiful and contemporary way which allows us, to focus. And especially, I really encourage everyone to read Iqbal's, concept of the khudi and selfhood and the development of the self, especially young Muslims, because I really believe it will benefit us today in the 21st century. And obviously, some of his other works is profound as well. Some of his stuff in the Reconstruction. Again, read that. But I think his concept of khudi has to be studied by Muslims of the 21st century. That being said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I think I've gone on long enough, inshallah, and I'll catch up with you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum.